Let's talk to Oli Christie, who's Managing Director of Neon Play. They're a hugely successful games and apps developer company based in Cirencester. Good morning, Oli.
Hi, Chris.
Now, even somebody who develops apps has been stung. Tell us your story.
Yeah, my daughter, she was playing a game called My Horse last year, and we suddenly got a bill for £200 in what's called in-app purchases. So, yeah, it happens to everyone, I'm afraid.
Can you explain then what in-app purchases mean? Because when you first buy an app, you have to put in a password, don't you, to buy it from Apple. So you'd have thought that would be child-proof, but it's what happens beyond that can cost you money.
It is, and nowadays the majority of games are actually free because, in theory, you make more money out of free games through these things called in-app purchases. So it could be like on a farming game, you're accelerating time, or you're buying new animals or buildings for that game. And when you download an app, you have to put in your password. Everyone has to do that. But what happens is there's a 15-minute window when after that initial password entry, you don't have to put your password in again. And that's where we got stung, and it sounds like Danny also got stung as well. And kids just don't understand this principle that, you know, if a little pop-up comes up and says, would you like to buy 1,000 coins? Yes, please, why not?
And actually, you know, for the smoothness of a game, you don't want to be putting a password in every 5 minutes, do you?
Well, you don't, and that's the thing. I mean, now my daughter, we've made it very, very clear that she can download the free apps as much as she wants, but she cannot buy anything at all, and she understands that, but she's a bit older, but a 5-year-old wouldn't quite get that.
Would you like better safeguards to be built into apps? Is this something you're looking at?
Well, I mean, to be fair, and not everyone knows this, you can put restrictions on, and if you go to, on an iPhone or iPad, if you go to Settings, General, Restrictions, you can then turn off the in-app purchases there, which means that you have to put your password in every time you do it. With Android games, the developer, i.e. Neon Play, we can actually directly refund somebody, but with Apple games you can't do that, and you have to go through Apple rather through the developer. Now, what we will do, Chris, before 10 o'clock, I hope, is we will put onto the Neon Play website instructions as how people can claim back from Apple if that's happened to them. We have an email which we send to people if they complain to us on our games. So we'll put that on by 10 o'clock today.
Well, that's handy, and we'll link to that on our Facebook page as well. So there are things you can do, but it ought to be a little bit more upfront, perhaps, do you reckon?
I think so, and I think, you know, it's a sort of an issue that's been discussed in our industry of, you know, the ethics of making a game which is clearly charged at children, having a £70 in-app purchase. You know, that doesn't seem very ethical. We've made games for Ben 10 with Cartoon Network and Little Princess, which is a Channel 5 cartoon, and those games are very much a £1.99 game, full stop. You can't spend more than that. You get what you pay for. But the problem is that obviously, you know, developers are in it to make money, and this is the way to make more than that £1.99. You can end up, you know, as Danny did, spending 1,500 quid or whatever it was, 1,700 quid. What's interesting, in America, literally this week actually, there was a class action lawsuit which happened with 5 parents complained to Apple about this, and they won a $100 million claim there. And Apple now in America only currently are actually rebating people. Parents need to just fill out a form, and they will pay them in iTunes vouchers up to $5 or anything over that. They'll actually do a cash rebate, but that's in the US only. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens globally. Very,
very interesting. Now, Oli, you run your own company, and we're also talking this morning about working hours. And according to the TUC, 1 in 5 workers regularly put in 7 hours of unpaid overtime every week. What's it like where you work? I mean, you've got a busy office, a creative office. Do people stick to the hours? Do you encourage them to do that, or do you think people tend to just work?
Well, we're quite clear here. We have a 9 to 6 working hours. The guys need to be here by 9 o'clock. They get an hour off for lunch. And at 6 o'clock, to be honest, the majority of people are out the door, or they stay behind and play pool or ping pong, you know, because we've got those facilities here as well. I don't want guys to be working late, to be honest. I want them fresh in the morning, so that at 9 o'clock tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, Saturday, but on Monday, you know, they're ready to go. Of course, sometimes we have a crunch and we have to try and launch a game, so there is a push and it might be till 10 o'clock, but really I'm a big believer of not working people to the bone because they're not going to be efficient the next day. So it's actually a false economy.
So if you see people working through the lunch hour every day, you'll have a word, will you?
No, I don't mind that, and sometimes people do that, but the majority, we've got an Xbox here, or we go to the pub or whatever it might be. So if they want to work through their lunch hour, that's totally up to them. Most people don't, to be fair, unless they've got a responsibility because they know that they've got to finish a certain task today or by a certain time.
And I suppose, your office is an unusual one because you've got all these gadgets and gizmos and fun things around the office, so you probably wouldn't want to go home, Yeah.
Well, we want people to love coming to work, and having an awesome workplace with all the games and stuff like that is really important to us, and it's one of the 10 reasons to work at Neon Play.
Yeah, as long as I don't clock up too much cash on those games, eh? Ollie, good to talk to you. Thank you. That's Oli Christie, who's managing director of Neon Play, an apps development company based in Cirencester.